session for the Guam Power Authority. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Lim Chaku is excused, South Island. And let's see, John, the floor is yours.
Commissioners, thank you very much. I do have three issues for decision today and one issues for discussion in hopes of a decision.
Yeah.
So the first one is item FY 2023-04, and that's to authorize management for the extension of the uses of the ultra-low sulfur storage agreement with TriStar Terminal.
Okay.
This is there are two tanks that we are currently leasing up at TriStar, and again, this is because we are now burning ultra-low sulfur diesel at PD. So this is the supply for PD. And again, so the tank leases expire, 1906 expires in December 2022, and tank 1907 in June of 2023. However, we do know that we're going to need these tanks at least into around 2024.
Right.
So therefore, the request is to extend the leases of these two tanks all the way to June of 2024. And there is a part good news in that 1907 lease has also been reduced from a regular $147,000 a month to $98,000. So the two contracts basically will be for about $2.842 million over between now all the way through 2024, which is a reduction of about $550 some $1,000 in lease agreement. Once the storage tanks have all been rehabilitated, then these two tanks could be released. Or again, it's a decision we can look back then whether we hold one tank for inventory for fuel oil above any tsunami threat. You know what I mean? Because if all our tanks, we still have 1 month supply in the north, but do we keep some more up there as a backup in case of extreme weather condition? But again, the decision will come later. But for now, we do the tanks, and it's the only tanks that we can use. So that's the first item, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
There's no questions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Commissioners?
Second item, Mr. Chair, is we need to increase our budget for the fuel oil. Of course, we try to make an estimate in the beginning of the fiscal year, and this is actually just a pass-through. So whatever it costs is just what we pay, and it's on this goes in the LEAC portion. Our budget for FY 2023 was about $236,432,000. And we anticipate now that the budget would have to be increased to $485,638,775. Again, this is based on several things. One, of course, the continued high prices of fuel oil, which hasn't rolled back. And secondly, we're having to burn 0.2% sulfur at Cabers and ultra-low sulfur diesel at PD. So that's the second resolution, Mr. Chair. I think that's straightforward. It is what it is, no? And
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, John, just as we're out there in the community, I want to make sure that not only us at the commission or myself, if I'm not completely understanding it, but to the community. Ultimately, one, this translates into potential exposure on the LEAC as to what what it may become, right? Because I noticed in my work session book there was a blank space on the LEAC resolution. I noticed it's not even in the work session yet, so I imagine you're gonna work on it like we must, right?
No, it's there this morning.
Okay,
my apologies, Commissioner. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it on the agenda?
It's on the agenda.
He'll
update us when we get there.
Okay, anyway, nonetheless, but I mean, we're doing a budgetary move right now because the budget we passed summer, I guess, for the coming FY23, as the real prices emerge, these are the forecasted costs. And a couple of distinctions that also make it more challenging for all of us is the fact that we're burning the ultra low sulfur diesel, which from an environmental point of view, it's wonderful because it's cleaner, right? 99% reduction in emissions. But from a cost point of view, it's really hard on GPA, it's hard on the community because the cost of this cleaner fuel is the most expensive, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the most expensive fuel we've burned ever, right? Because it's cleaner, but it's much more expensive. Just like when you go into the gas station, you have 3 grades of gas you can buy, and there's one that's more expensive than the other. And then the fact that it's diesel, given the global circumstances with diesel, that is compounding the cost challenge of this particular fuel, which is now the dominant fuel we burn in all of our plants to comply with the US EPA clean air requirement, right? So when we get to the LEAG, I'm sure we'll continue that conversation, but as we educate our ratepayers and explain why costs are changing, we can, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it right, and that as you talk about it and GPA talks about it to ratepayers, the biggest reason this budget is changing so dramatically is we now have converted completely to ultra low sulfur diesel, which is cleaner but far more expensive than RFO, what we used to burn, the dirty oil. Mm-hmm. So it was dirty, but it was much cheaper. Mm-hmm. Now we're cleaner. That makes some people happy, but much more expensive, which makes many people less than happy, right? But that's really the magnitude of the change is significant because it reflects the magnitude of the conversion that you and Melinda and the team have now completed with the generators. They're all burning US EPA required fuel mix for us to comply with the Clean Air Act, and which we now are. We've reduced the emissions, but as a result, we've had to burn a much more expensive fuel. Right.
Yeah, in comparison, if you look at January of 2022, the low sulfur fuel was about $70 a barrel. The low sulfur fuel now we're using is about $160. No?
It's almost doubled since January.
Right? When you look at ultra low sulfur diesel, the cost was about $90 a barrel. Now it's $140. So even the regular fuel that was down at 90. It's now even 140. So eventually, because the low sulfur RFO is really a blending also of diesel fuel to cut the percentage of sulfur. So it's a double whammy on the scenario, no? So if diesels do come down closer, then you're going to see some, significant changes.
So for many years, we would look at, at least as a general estimate, right? In the media, we would look at the oil markets that that we see $80 a barrel, $90 a barrel. We add $10 for freight, and that was the story for decades, right? But now that we've converted, we're not burning $80 barrel oil. We're burning much, 120, 140, 160. And I was just curious, or I mean, part of, I guess, our education process, like with the media and others, is the days of just looking at West Texas crude as a barometer of the cost of our ultra-low sulfur diesel. That's actually not a good barometer anymore. It's a barometer in terms of going up and down, per se, although, as you're pointing out, diesel and ultra-low sulfur diesel is moving differently than the market. It's gone, while the WTI has gone down to $80 a barrel, is what you're seeing. That's not what ultra-low sulfur diesel is doing. It's gone up. Since just from January, as you pointed out. And so it's important as we tackle the LEAC and make sure we can pay for the fuel through our rates, that we also begin to educate ourselves and our ratepayers that, these are the trade-offs of having lower emissions, but we're having to burn a much more expensive fuel. And when you look at the global market, you really can't look at WTI anymore because it's about $30, $40 a barrel off.
We try have to gauge it based now on some specific gas oil, which
Right.
is what is like diesel.
Yeah.
So we have all the, in the chart in the GM report, you have all the different what was and what it is now. So we can almost forget about the was because we have already converted.
Yeah. It's
The
not us
plan.
anymore.
So that's
Yeah.
so now the reality is the ultra low sulfur diesel in the chart, and the next one up, which is the RFO, all of which will basically be diminished substantially once the new power
Ukudu
plant
comes
comes on the line. So the LEAC that you're seeing today of about 29-30 cents will basically be down to the about 15 to 16 cents at the current prices. So that's the big difference, and that's why the power plant is needed. No?
So to me, it might be useful as we move forward and we've completed the conversion. I almost like that you still track what RFO used to cost, so that people can see this. Had we not converted because we, we're forced, have to comply, whatever verb you want to use, right? This is the old price when we were doing RFO, but that's not the fuel we're allowed to burn anymore. And this is the new price, so that people, not everyone's going to appreciate it, but the differential to me is important, at least for a while, because we're in the conversion stage where we've converted mechanically and operationally. From a bill paying point of view, we have to bring our ratepayers along and say, okay, this is the cost of the conversion. Our air is cleaner, but right, and then it really leads into that's why we're building Ukudu. And that's why we're moving to more renewables, is to reduce whatever fuel we're burning. We want to burn much, much less of it, right? We're going to go from 1.7 million gallons down to 700,000 when Ukudu's up and the solar farms that you've already got one going, and you've now been authorized to go get some more renewables, right?
Yeah, so for over 50 years, we've been burning the cheap fuel, a third-year cheap fuel. In 2012, the US EPA said no more, and we had to comply. And so we worked from 2012 to 2022 to get relief as we decided what to do. And we decided that we were going to build a new power plant. And that was going to be done in October 2022. But for other delays or whatever reason, for them to provide an extension past December 2022, we needed to burn the diesel, the RFO. So,
And that's the fuel we're going to burn anyway.
yeah,
Right. So
and that's where we're heading with all of this. So that's why, again, but at least we've avoided penalties and all of that to be able to be at this point. And the end
Still
result
put the
is,
power
yes.
on.
and we're required to burn this
Yeah,
cleaner
you
fuel.
gotta have the power,
Yeah.
so you gotta burn the fuel.
Yeah, that's the laws
So
of
we're
the country.
almost there, where we've now had the best of both worlds, if you will, lower cost energy plus clean environment. no?
And I think, John, one of the things is, we're burning two fuels right now. We're
Right.
burning the 2% RFO,
Yeah.
and we're burning the ultra-low sulfur diesel. And part of the problem is, when we made these conversions over to these fuels, our current plants, 1 and 2 and 8 and 9, their heat rates are not good enough, so the efficiencies went down. And that causes you to burn even more fuel. The beauty of the Okudu plant is, we'll switch only to the ultra-low sulfur diesel, but the efficiency, heat rates are better, efficiency's better, so you're gonna be burning less oil to produce those kilowatt hours. And that's how you're gonna, that's the goal, to save money for the ratepayers. And then when you add in the 2 solar farms that you have right now, and the next 2 or 3 solar farms that you're gonna put in, we'll be in a good place. That's how we're going to bring, we have a plan, the plan is good, the plan will work, and all we need to do is, it's a timing thing. We need time to complete the plan.
So when you compare in January this year, I'm not including, say, KEPCO was not on the line yet,
Yeah.
right? From January this year, and when we get to Ukudu being on in mid-October or so, in mid-2024, the total reduction of fuel import will be in the neighborhood of about almost 800,000 barrels a year.
Want to use 40% less gas? Something like that.
80, that's 800,000 less out of the
Significant.
current utilization of 2.7 million barrels.
Huge. 1.7.
And then as we add more renewables, which is the phase 4, you can consider that if it is 180, you can consider another 600,000 barrel reduction. So that 8 plus 6 is 1.4 from the 2.7. We're looking at about a 1.3 million barrel, more than half.
Is it 2.7 we're burning or 1.7 million barrels?
2.7.
2.7, okay. And then
So
we're cutting it almost in half.
2.7 to 1.3 by 2026, no?
Oh, my
yeah,
ads,
with the other-
If phase
with the
4
other-
comes on.
my ads only said 40%. We're going to cut it by 50%.
So that's 50%.
But that, well,
False
no.
advertising.
That's still, Simon, you're right. You were right, because that didn't include the solar, the other solar.
It did. I said 40%. It's 50%. Anyway, it's
So
significant,
to-
which is
to
great.
figure
Which is
that
what we
as
need, what
Which
we
is the
want.
goal.
Our impact from fuel oil
Oh,
is
huge.
minimized
Huge.
50%. And not only that, not only for 2026, 2028, but for
Forever.
20 years, because the renewables are 1% escalator.
Yeah.
The machine is so efficient that the impact is
And-
minimal. So we're going to be in good shape in terms of rates.
It's a,
Reliable, clean, and more cost effective.
It's a-
So we're almost there. We
Yeah,
just have to manage
we have
through
to
the
implement
next
it,
2
right,
years.
right? We have the
we just have to
plan,
build
right, right. It's a sacrifice for us as current ratepayers, but the payback is coming.
Substantial.
And for our future ratepayers, which God willing includes us for a while, right? And our children and our grandchildren, we are making a huge paradigm shift to cut your fuel consumption. And I mean, think about it. I bet if we polled everybody in Guam and said, wouldn't you want your car to use 50% less gas? I think it would be like 99 to 1 people saying yes. And that's exactly what you're trying
That's
to
what we're
implement.
doing.
You're trying to provide the same amount of energy, as the chairman said, with half the amount of fuel that we're burning now, using renewables, using Ukadu. It's in play. Now we're implementing it. I look forward to your report on Ukadu, your last month. You were very encouraged with the progress they were making. It's mid 2024 is our goal. I know you're cracking the whip on them to make it do it, and they want to do it quickly too, because they don't make any money till they
wanna make
sell us a
money.
megawatt, right? And so they're in a hurry, not too much in a hurry.
Interest in construction, all kind
Yeah,
of costs.
the fuel line construction that you've presented, the pictures of what's going on with the fuel line, it's really amazing how much is being done to make the paradigm shift to using 50% less oil beginning in 2024, and then allow us even more progress, because now you can add more renewables because you have Ukadu.
Remember, the alternative to that was putting in scrubbers and everything all into an old machine.
No, that
which
was
we
not an
eventually
alternative.
had to replace. So I think the CCU, PUCO made an excellent decision in moving forward with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some pain right now, but again, that pain wouldn't have been this much if world events hadn't occurred, right? But that kind of,
Didn't have the
so
crazy
be it as it may,
war.
we're at least looking at it, we're like at the top now of the.
And we're less
Because-
susceptible to future events too. That's the other thing about it, is not just the absolute relief.
Once we put in
But
our
we're
plan,
less susceptible. It's like when you have a disease that you've been able to overcome. That on a going forward basis, that's good, right? And so, we're working it. We're working it.
Okay, so.
So where's
No
that next
questions on
resolution?
that. We'll go through the next one, which is Resolution 2023-06, and that's to authorize management of Guam Power Authority to petition the Public Utilities Commission to maintain the levelized energy adjustment clause for the period from February 1st to July 31st, 2023.
But it's not in the
It's
book.
not in the board books, but it
Okay,
is
that's
on
what
the
I was saying.
screen.
I noticed last night when I was reviewing, it was blank. I go,
Yeah.
oh, what's the
Did it
secret?
It's listed there, it's just not on.
Okay, so it's not in board books.
Got loaded this morning?
No,
It's on board books, so it's under the GM's presentation.
GM report,
Yeah.
the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
But
think
this is
it's
going to be a resolution, right?
yes, the resolution's there on the board books, but it's not
Yeah.
loaded.
Okay, so it's on page 36 of board books. Reading this right.
So,
Oh, I like that.
okay, so here again, just a update on all of this. I'll just go through some of this quickly. Again, the prices here of fuel per barrel, July 168, has come down to about 141, but again, it's been hanging right around there, 141 for about 140 for diesel and about 160 for the low sulfur RFO. No, next. This is the forward noon pricing that is utilized by the PUC to project for the months ahead what the price may be. So
It's
we
nice.
utilize
It's good
this, I mean, in lack of anybody's best crystal ball, we can at least follow the Morgan Stanley as per agreement with as a projection. No,
We like
Next.
this project, getting lower.
just an update again. In July, we began burning ultra low sulfur diesel at PD, and like the chairman said, before we're getting 18 kilowatt hours per gallon of RFO. In RFO, because diesel has less BTUs, we're now getting about 16 kilowatt hours, so less.
10%.
Because again, just a matter of how much heat rate BTUs are in a barrel of oil. And then in July, September 1st, we began burning on PD number 9. So both units are complied with the US EPA regulation that they must be on ultra low sulfur diesel no later than July 31st. No? Cabras 1 and 2, again, we stopped deliveries in April for the high sulfur, and again, this is so that we can burn everything out in the tanks. Subsequent to that, in June, we burned everything out in around the June time. Then we started burning 1.19, and so now we're basically, all we have is the 0.02 that we have already bought in. It's actually the second shipment that we have bought in now. The second tank is actually being drained now so that it can be rebuilt for repair. So at least one tank will be done by the end of the year, and the second tank is being cleaned now to be evaluated. So that both tanks, once it's completed, will hold all the ultra low sulfur diesel that we bring in. Good news is that KEPCO came on the line in June. And it's a minimum of 141 million kilowatt hours annually. That's like $52 a barrel. And of course, what is that saving us a month now? About $3 million a month. No. So again, that's the value of this. Again, remember, it's not going to move anywhere because that 8.5 cents will be around 10 cents in 20 years. It's very 1% escalator. Next. So here's the highest LEAC and rates that we have had, 41 cents, with the LEAC being at 31.85, which is what the PUC approved in November. No?
Correct.
So this is the highest rate we have. If there's any consolation, I'd like to again remind others that really we're still the lowest compared to Hawaii, all the other Pacific Islands, or even San Diego. No, they're all experiencing much higher. Hawaii, of course, are in the 50 to 60 cents a kilowatt hours. No. Next, if that's not really a consolation for us, but again, it relatively, So right now, if you look at the projection based on the new LEAC rate of 31 cents, our under recovery is estimated to go from 41 to 35 million
At the end
in
of
January. No?
Good.
Next.
John, I'm sorry, just before you leave that page,
Back,
you know,
back.
that, and I, you know, this is an excellent page for our ratepayers and our media to focus in the sense that, sometimes people say, the LEAC is always high. It's never low, right? But you can see it was at 10 cents in 2015. It dropped to 8 cents in 2016, and it's 32 cents in 2022, right? And that's just the world being the world when it comes to the price of oil. But the LEAC savings are when oil is cheaper, the LEAC is cheaper. When oil is more expensive, the LEAC is more expensive. Just like when you drive into the gas station, sometimes it's $6 a gallon, sometimes it's $5 a gallon, and in the last 7 years there was a time it was $4 a gallon, and that's just the whole relationship with oil, which is we just talked about why we're investing in assets that reduce our use of oil. with Ukadu and with renewables. But this is kind of proof to everyone that the LEAC goes up and down with oil, and it is passed on when it's lower, and it is passed on when it's higher, because like when you go into the gas station, that's what it costs.
It is what it is.
And it is what it is, and you have a choice. You cannot gas up your car, but then you can't go very far. We could not gas up the generators, but I don't think anybody would be happy with no energy at their house or their business. And so this is the challenge that we're elected to deal with, and we hire you folks to deal with. But it's an excellent snapshot of how the price of oil and the impact on the LEAC is that relationship, where it's 32 now. There was a time it was 8. There was a time it was 10. And it will move like that until it'll take a dramatic turn in 2024 when Ukadu comes online, because you're cutting 50% of the amount of oil that we're using today. We will reduce by 50% with Ukadu and the renewables that you already have in the ground, you're developing, and you're about to issue RFPs in the coming year for even more renewables that can interface with Ukadu to further reduce the amount of oil that we burn for energy. And that's the only way, but it's a sustainable way we can lower the for our rate.
Part of it, of course, was that we were burning cheaper oil, no? But also that we're more efficient. They don't have a machine like a PD8 and 9, the slow speed diesel.
And they have a profit margin.
They have machines more like the
private company.
like the Cabros 1 and 2, no? But the 8 and 9 has really saved us money, no? And then again, other costs, the margins, maybe. If I haven't compared the base rate versus what they would call a base
Well,
rate.
I can tell you.
But
I can tell you, I have a bill from Honolulu for Hawaiian Electric. The other problem, Primo, is that with the influx of solar, rooftop solar into Honolulu and the other islands, they decoupled their rate. So what that meant is they removed the relationship between what you consume and what you pay. So whatever they need to pay their expenses, they're just going to get from the ratepayer. That's it. So they've been steadily increasing what they need because they're no longer getting enough money to maintain their system. So when they need to get that money, because they're not getting enough money from the rooftop solar people, they're not paying a bill anymore. So what they're doing is then they're increasing the bill on everybody else to pay for the transmission and distribution system, to pay for the other costs that they normally would get if everybody just paid their bill and there were no rooftop solar. That's the difference between the rooftop solar guys and the solar farms. Hawaii doesn't have, they're beginning to get into solar farms, but they were initially just rooftop solar. And only one island, the island of Maui, has windmills. Because the island of Maui, Guam is 212 square miles. The island of Maui is 700 and some square miles.
I think Kauai has some wind, but very small.
Very small, very small. It's basically, Maui has the wind power, which is good, but that's what happened. They decoupled their rates. We were thinking about that. Thank God we didn't do that. Because if we had, we would be raising the base rate to make up for the difference and to allow the utility to maintain their transmission and distribution system. Because you have to maintain it.
so we have held our rate since 2012, the base rate.
The base rate.
The only thing that's been moving is the LEAC, but the base rate, we've been living within that means and actually generated enough cash to be able to advance $42 million.
Yep.
That's coming from our savings from the base rate. So those are saying we've not cut on O&M and all. No, we don't cut for the purpose of cutting. We maintain, but we try to maintain at least cost as possible, and therefore those savings go into our working capital to be available to help our ratepayers.
That's how we
got the $42 million that now we'll bring back to put into CIPs, no? To further improve the system. So that's the
But the future, the thing I think we always are trying to focus on, our future is bright. Our plans are good, we just need to get there. So it's a timing problem. We need to get there. COVID didn't help anybody, not even us. Delayed a lot of stuff. We have a little wrinkle in our procurement law that cost us to lose a very good contract because somebody protested, and 2 years later, the provider said, no, I can't do it anymore because the prices have changed.
The delay was too long.
The delay was too long. So, but we still have the plan. The plan is good.
Yep.
And the plan will work to cut our people's rate, our people's power bill.
Yep.
That's the goal. And to provide the reliable power that we need.
And even with the delays, you're not going to see 32 cents solar.
No.
Not even close. You're going to see 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever the price is going to go up from the Germans, and we lost the one at 8 and 9. But the two nice things about solar is, one, it's significantly cheaper than oil, and two, it doesn't escalate. It doesn't do this. It doesn't go 10, 30, 10, 30. It doesn't do $140 a barrel. So it's like a mortgage you have with a very slight variable mortgage, but the variable rate is very low and very slow. Right? And that's a much better situation for the future of our ratepayers and our community. We'll have a great, much cleaner environment and much lower prices once Ukudu gets going, and once John and the team keep implementing, getting more private partnerships that will invest in solar, there's even, I've been approached with some inquiry about, somebody wants to look at geothermal again. Again, we'll look at any technology that the private sector feels there's an opportunity. They're gonna have to bid, they have to be competitive, but we're seeing with solar, it ain't anywhere near 32 cents per kilowatt hour. And in 25 years, it ain't gonna be anywhere near that. So we know, as the chairman said, we're making the right decisions in the right way. Reasons, but we need the time to. Now we're in construction. We got $1 billion worth of private sector investment. One's online, Marble. The other one's being built at Ukudu. That's $1 billion that's being invested on behalf of our ratepayers to cut our oil consumption by 50%, which is going to reduce the power bill and keep it at a very level rate, and allow us, put that money back into the pockets of our ratepayers so they can use it for their other needs, which is huge savings for them.
Okay.
So if we look at, and again, this is not just looking at February on, but considering that February, we're recommending February Bill 2B, what is the rate today that was increased on November 1st?
So no change in the LEAC is your proposal?
Yep.
So the LEAC 9 is at 31. So what happened here in November, no? It went from 29 to 31, and that had an impact of $22 on the customer, no, or 5.73% on the total bill. So really holding that, if we held that, and again, there's still issues with diesel shortages and all that, so we don't know whether some days I see that it's going to jump to 200, some days right? So it's really still uncertain, and the PUC has a better look at this in January, right? So therefore, again, if this holds true and fuel oil prices stay steady, then the under recovery will actually go down to about 8.3 million by July. No?
Oh, that's the
At
total.
the end of the next
31's going to go to 8?
Yeah.
By July.
And does that include and that doesn't include the possible assistance on the ratepayer side? Well, actually, we still get the money. We just don't get it from the ratepayer, right? We get it from the general
ratepayers
government.
get a reduction.
They get the
when-
break,
They get the break,
and the
but-
taxpayers.
So we still get
So
the same
that's
amount
the
of money.
that's the other good news, at least, is that there's two bills being
To
for
extend
public
the-
hearing to extend,
help
no?
the
Senator
Yeah.
Teresa Loy and of course Senator San Augustine, no? To extend for another 5 months. So when you consider the steps, now it's about $40 in July, increase $40 for the average residential customer, 40 in September, and about here the 22. So you look at now, you're really at about the $100 $100 a month difference for an average residential customer.
Commissioner Sanchez.
So, John, just sort of sensitivity analysis and thinking that right now with the current projections, God willing that they occur, we've been carrying 30, 40, what was the highest under recovery we got to, 50?
40.
Almost 50 million in under recovery. You're saying just by holding the rate, if the projected costs remain as projected, right? That 47, which is, what is it now? 40?
It's about
Okay, that 41 will go down to 8
at the end of July.
by next July. So I'm wondering, even just for discussion Tuesday as an option, what would the rate be if we had an under recovery of 20 million by next year? Where we don't try to get all 40 million back in 6 months to get to 8, right? We're going to go from 41 to 8. Because we've been able to carry 40 to 50 million to try to give some more relief to ratepayers. Could we look at a scenario that says, what if the under recovery was 15 million or 20 million next July? Just as an analysis. That doesn't mean.
Yeah, we can provide
It's a
that,
group decision, right?
Yeah.
And it's it's your recommendation too. You may say, here's the math, but my concerns would be
Yeah.
what they are.
We
That's
can
very-
provide that, and again,
Let's just look at it.
that's our thought. I mean, I think part of our thought recommendation is really, as long as the under recovery doesn't start turning the other way
like it
again.
did.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
John, the thing
Yeah.
about that is, I like the projections, and we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
I like holding it at the 31, because we're already there. Let's not move any higher. I don't want to do that.
I
But,
agree.
but the thing about it is you have several different factors. If you did a small reduction right now, and the oil price of oil or something in the world market took off in the wrong direction again, that could easily escalate it. Two, you do want to cut it so that you can start putting more money into your T&D and all the other stuff that you need to do. The stuff that you've been delaying, holding off on, that you need to do. So, those are the things that we would have to worry about. It's not just a simple thing of saying, well, if you could not make it down to 8, but you made it down to 20, yeah, but you'd still be delaying some stuff, and we need to see how. So it's all good discussion. So bring your thoughts to the table, and we can discuss
a
it.
breakdown on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
And does
Or
the
not
8
this-
million projected under recovery include the possibility of the 25 million in assistance from the general government?
No,
Fi-
that
the
the 25 million has nothing to do with
We-
our.
Yeah,
This
that's
is money we received from either
whether it's from the government or
government
from us.
but this is money we will receive from the government.
So
Plus
this is without
the-
the subsidy.
This
right?
is
This projection
this
is on
just-
our side of the equation. We're not counting any help from the general fund,
no,
right?
the customer won't see this impact. They're gonna see it
Right.
minus $100.
Right, because the government is paying some
Their
of this,
bill.
some of
It's
this
paying-
recovery
paying
to
their
get us
bill.
down to 8.
Yeah,
paying
it's
their
paying
bill.
their
Okay.
bill. Instead of giving us cash that they did the one time, the $15 million, where they actually gave GPA $15 million to address the LEAC. But
25 million. They did 5 months, right?
No,
Yeah, 5 million. About
million
5
a month.
million a month. They're gonna.
no. I'm
The first
talking
one was
before.
25 million.
No. John Kim, hold on. John Kim, what did the governor originally give before she started giving the credit of the $100? What was the amount?
Yeah, so
15
15
million
and then
in cash.
25.
No, $15 million in cash directly from the government to GPA. That, okay, now what they're doing instead is they're giving GPA money on behalf of the ratepayer, okay? So it's substantial money.
But this 8 million projected reduction in our under recovery down to 8 million, right? The 25 million, if it's passed, the 5-month extension, right? Works on the customer side, we still end up at 8 million under recovery.
We still see
We're-
the
we're
same
just
amount
getting
of money.
Money from ratepayers, and we're getting money from the general government. When you put it together, if
They
oil,
pay- it pays
if
their
oil
bill.
hits the projections that, who knows, right? But our best professional guess, in combination, the projected under recovery next, by the end of next July would be 8 million down from 47 million. And all you're going to take a peek at is what would it look like if it was just 20 million? Would it allow you to actually lower the LEAC for that February through August 2023 period? Let's just look at it. Just kind of, because we've tolerated up to 47, just for the point you made earlier. We're a well-run company to the degree that we have reserves that can actually front 47 million. So what if we fronted 20 million, which we've done numerous times in the past? We've carried, I mean, that used to be we used to be very uncomfortable with, God, we're at 20, right? Because we used, we keep it pretty close, right? But life, the world forced us to get as high as 47 million. And now we're bringing it down to 8 by next August. And, just for analytical purposes and policy purposes, we may say, hey, you know what? Give the folks a break. We'll live with 20. You're getting back 27. We've lived with 20 before, and we can see. But I think the chairman makes a good point. We delayed some of this during COVID because COVID was difficult, but now we're having to catch up, which is what made it go to 32, right? So there's sort of a price for delay also, right? Pay me now or pay me later, right? But at least on Tuesday you can say, well, the one scenario that so far as your recommendation will get us down to 8. This is the rate. If the commission wanted to consider a higher under recovery by next August, let's say, for example, 20 million. I mean, to me, just run that example.
We can run the.
Just see what it says, right?
We can run the numbers and
And it may, you know what? You may find with all the math. Okay, so 31.8 becomes 30.8. It may be so incrementally small as to not make it a big difference, right? But let's at least look at it. I like that.
And I just want to
again,
point out,
it's just that the crystal ball becomes shorter by January.
yeah.
See what I mean?
So in other words,
Because right now, anything could happen next month, and
Yeah, who
then
knows,
we'll be-
right?
right? So
Yeah.
the crystal ball is clear in January. What we could do beyond, but certainly we can if the
Because even the PUC may want to look at it. They may disagree with us. They may say, hey, I want to
well,
I want to delay it. You can carry the under recovery. I don't know. At least we give them an option that we looked at it. But here's the absolute change we recommend, and that we still could end up recommending. I mean, we could recommend this and say, by the way, we ran it at 20 million under recovery. Here's the number. Now, you guys watch the market.
Okay.
You do your job, PUC. Let us know what you decide in January. All we can do is provide them information, right?
but let's remember that the situation we have today, see, that's the beautiful thing. We give them this number now because by the time they get to their decision point in January, when they make their decision, they'll have a lot more numbers. And if it goes up, that's what they consider. They also
goes
have their own
down,
consideration. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like the fact that, I like the
This
fact,
31 could go up.
I like the
we
fact,
don't want the 30.
Yeah.
Exactly.
so I like the fact that our recommendation is to hold the LEAG. That's a good thing.
But we still gain on under recovery. Yep.
Yeah, but we need, the goal is always to get to zero. That's the original goal. What's that, this should be a zero at the end of, so when it over recovers, we return. When it under recovers, we increase. So, that's the way this works. So we all want to play some nice thoughts, but I'm happy that we stuck with a 31,
Well, we haven't stuck with it. We'll decide on Tuesday.
Well, no, but your recommendation is to stay here.
Yeah, but it's very encouraging, actually.
It's encouraging, so, at least I'm happy about that.
Yep.
We had a meeting with the rating agency just the other day, just because they're keeping track of all of this,
Sure.
and we mentioned them, hey, that's what we have our cash for, and we're trying to help our customers, but we continually to make sure that the utility pays its bills, we're paying our bonds,
We
we're
raised the
our debt
LEAC.
service, or we raise the LEAC as
PUC raised the
necessary.
LEAC.
But it's just they are watching us, no, and so I think we're making a good move.
Okay,
Very good.
okay, let's go to the next one that you need to tell us about.
Okay, the next one, Mr. Chair, is last legislation to change bid protest and local preference policies to assist ratepayers. No,
Okay.
we have a proposed resolution. It's still really a work in progress for us, so that we'll try and finalize this by the Tuesday meeting and give you any changes before then. But we wanted to get started on this because, as we all know, we're starting with a procurement for 180 megawatts. And again, this is not to really, we're not against local preferences, or we're not against protests, but it's really, we have to protect the ratepayers. I think it's too skewed the other way, that
So this
the
tells us what we
ratepayers are
lost
not
out.
protected, no?
Okay.
So the message is this, and again, instead of going through all the details, we can get comments or whatever, right? But this is what we're trying to avoid. If you look at the ANZ proposal, that's the contracted energy over the 20 years is 1.5 billion. kilowatt hours. And then the average rate over the, it starts at 11 cents all the way to about a little over 13. But you average it all, it's 12 cents. 189 million. The LEAC, as you see it, and again, I'm not even using 29, I'm just using the next two, and then I try to relate it to the Ukudu power plant. I estimate it to be about 18 on the average for all those years. 291, so $101 million, that could have been saved, no?
The impact to the ratepayers.
So then that's on the protest, no?
And that's over 20, that's
That's the 20-year.
The 20-year contracts with NG.
Yeah, because
Our contracts are
that's
20.
what we, this no longer just an item. This is not a procurement for a bucket truck or anything. This is a huge 20-year contract, no? And again, we have to fix this because more and more renewables are coming
Yeah,
on the line.
we can't afford to
But
go through
we just
this.
got to move forward because contractors proponents cannot wait 4, 6, 8, 12 months and hold their price.
Yep.
No, it's very difficult. No, it's almost impossible. Local preference again. If you look at that, that's 189. It's still unclear. Some maybe 15% and some are 3%. But no matter which way you look at it, if at 3%, what you're paying for the local or providing the local preference is a $5.6 billion not only advantage but real dollars to them if
To
you
the
award
ratepayer.
it from the ratepayer. And of
the
course, 28 million if it's 15%. So again, the total cost impact of this two varies between 107 and 129 million over the life of the contract of 20 years. So this is why we have to try and fix this. We presented a proposal. We'll be happy to, take more comments from the commission, and we're also
Well, we'll
looking
give
at
you
it
our comments
further.
by Tuesday.
And
How did you pick the 2 million threshold?
well, 2 million. If you look 2 million at even 3%, I think 2 million at 3% is about
60,000. 60,000. 60,000. No, I'm just saying that. No, I'm just curious. I'm not.
because there
You
are
had to
other,
pick a number, so I'm just curious. The 2
there are
million came out of.
typically our renewables contract will be higher than
Significantly
2 million. No? But then you can avoid also others that are, so.
In terms of your sense of, with all your experience in running the utility here, 2 million makes sense to you given the nature of procurements that GPA undertakes?
we have seen,
That above that, the preference really works against the ratepayer. It doesn't work for the ratepayer. And it's artificial because the commodities that you procure, local preference, non-local, let's face it, oil's not coming from here. It's coming from Singapore. Nobody's making transformers here. Nobody's making, I don't even know if they make power poles here.
I have a good example for you to show you that the effect of that is what did we pay for the batteries that we put in the 40, the one at Mung Mung and the one in
About 40 million. 40.
Yeah, see, so we paid $40 million for those batteries. So when you're buying a bucket truck or when you're buying poles, $2 million is a good one. But when you get to the big ticket items that really affect the ratepayers, like the batteries, that gives you the impact, This is
No, I wasn't.
No.
I was
So
only
that's
talking
why-
about the 2 million as the floor, right?
Yeah.
The 2 million is the floor. If it's under 2 million, you're still going to pay the preference, right? But I was just curious from a policy and an operational point of view. You pick 2 million, you could pick 5 million, you could pick 1 million. Just curious. 2 million was a sweet spot for you as a long time, from your
Well,
experience.
it's a good question to ask,
yeah.
John, so that you're prepared when.
So 2 million over 20 years, right? So at least that is a small increment.
I'm not disagreeing with.
So the
this is
prices have
exactly
to
what we
be
got to do.
really close versus the big, prices that are now.
And,
So
having been in the legislature, I won't be surprised if some senator, when you testify in favor of this, because I'm with the chairman, and I believe there's a consensus among the commissioners that our ratepayers paid a painful lesson for that protest against that NG contract. And now you're showing us how painful it was. It's over $100 million in savings that we could have produced for our ratepayers, except for a protest that never prevailed at any level. It was, rejected by us, rejected by OPA, rejected by Superior Court, but we lost this proposal. So there's no question from a policy point of view in terms of what's better for ratepayers. We need to make this law. I was just curious, as from an operational point of view, you pick 2 versus 1 versus 10, right? And just you buy enough things that you think 2 million is where the preference begins to work against the ratepayer, right? And with no benefit to the ratepayer. And we all know getting local preference in GovGuam procurement is easy. Just incorporate here, get your lawyer to spend $500, $1,000, and you're local all of a sudden, right? And in our business, we don't really buy anything locally. At least anything over. I don't think we buy too much at 2 million or more locally.
That's it.
Everything else we buy that 2 million or more is from an off-island vendor selling us transformers, bucket trucks, oil, a generator, right? That's where the big tickets really are impacted. And I totally agree with you and the chairman of that. There is absolutely no benefit to the ratepayers of paying a preference for an international commodity that someone can just incorporate for a couple $1,000 and get 3, 10, 15% preference just because they're incorporated on Guam, even though the widget's isn't coming from Guam.
Yeah. And I don't think the law perceived renewables. I think it just
Nobody
wasn't.
saw this coming, John.
Yeah, no one saw this coming.
I mean,
we
even a generator's not cheap, right? I mean, so I think you may be introducing a concept to the government of Guam that they need to think about. What is the role of local preference? It used to be, well, let's stimulate Peter Roy or Simon to invest in a business and sell the widget, right? But in reality, it's a global economy. We're buying things from all over the world. And to simply say, let's pay 15% more to someone incorporated on Guam for a widget that they bought in Arkansas or Singapore or wherever the heck they bought it, is that really good public policy for even the government of Guam? Right? I know in the private sector, if you're cheaper than John, I don't feel sorry then that you're from California and not from Sinahanya. For my company, I'm going to try to get the lowest rate for our shareholders. Well, the ratepayers are our shareholders, and this is a move in a direction that can. And you've got the proof here. This is what that protest cost our ratepayers. We lost a great partner because of the delay from the protest that was frivolous at the end of the day. It was ruled frivolous at every level. And look what it cost us. So, I mean, I'm glad you're going to. Do we have a sponsor yet?
No, but I'll be asking.
Maybe Senator Rizzo? He's our chair. Well, he's our chair. Maybe he.
Yeah, I intend, once the
John,
commission.
we'll let you handle that part.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going. Okay, is there anything else?
Just
report.
very quickly on the GM report. Again, just very quickly, that's our demand. We have adequate capacity. Again, we're getting into the cooler months, no? If you notice here, the load keeps going down all the way to January, February. NEM, again, is still leveling off, still around 10, 12 a month. Next. There's your prices for the diesel here.
Yep.
140 some.
100 and ugly.
So this, forget about this ones here now. That's history. This is what our new prices are, no? Next. Again, the PUC are looking at the EPCM and the property insurance. Next on the 29, they have approved the phase 4 and the LIAC 231 cents, no? Virtual power plan, Senator Rigel has introduced a bill sponsored by Senator San Agustin, Barnes, Terlahi, Shelton. Is to establish a virtual power plant, a network of distributed energy sources comprised of solar PV and energy storage systems at resident, business, and government sites. We're reviewing the legislation as introduced, and the public hearing is tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Just my thoughts on we did review the original bill, and Senator wanted our support on the bill, and the proposed changes that he basically has there has been reviewed by us, no? So I believe GP will testify in support of the bill. maybe a slight change that was brought up about, again, the whole criteria for any bill really related to solar is that it doesn't usurp the authority of the CCU and the PUC in terms of the rates and the policy calls related to that. So I think that the bill does that. It keeps away the rates are established by the CCU PUC. The program itself, whether it's called a virtual power plant, solar, or whatever, is really the intention of solar plus batteries to the similar to a rooftop, similar to the utility scale, but again smaller on a smaller scale. And of course, this are not it's not going to be cheaper than utility scale, but it does take away oil